Living a life in full is a conversation you always wanted to have with that person who gave an amazing TED Talk, or the author of one of your favorite books, or that inspirational Olympian you always wanted to know more about. It's graduate-level conversations with those making a difference in the world and in the lives of others. This show brings you new ideas and approaches so that you can live a life in full. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Stout, and I hope you enjoy this episode. This episode is brought to you by the nonprofit I founded, the Center for Global Initiatives. The Center is an all-volunteer organization, so there are no salaries, and thus all tax-deductible donations can go to the work. While our key country partner is in Tanzania, our work is global and generally focused in the areas of education and healthcare. We also help others to get their nonprofits started or augment others' project-based initiatives. It's our goal to open-source humanitarian intervention and to help make it easier for others to do more good in the world. We are proud to have been ranked a great nonprofit every year since 2011 and to have achieved a platinum-level rating by GuideStar. Links in this episode's show notes will take you to published articles on our outcomes, a number of helpful tools, and downloadable resources, which are all free, always. Please visit us at centerforglobalinitiatives.org and be sure to watch our video at patreon.com/Dr. Chris Stout to learn more. Thanks. Welcome to another episode of Living a Life in Full. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Stout. I know that many listeners of this show are athletes, and many of you are runners, from 5Ks to ultras and everything else in between. I also know that a lot of my audience members are travelers, local, global, adventure, you name it. Imagine if those two interests overlapped like a Vinn diagram, where the confluence would be running a marathon on each continent in 7 days. Impossible? Well, no. But how would you even manage the logistics of such a challenge? Well, that's where Dr. David Kelly comes in. David is the founder and race director of the Great World Race, an event in which participants complete a marathon on each of the 7 continents over a 7-day period. David is a renowned international endurance athlete and the visionary behind the Great World Race and other expeditions and adventures that challenge participants to traverse the world through a series of different athletic events. As a race organizer and the founder of Ice Cap Adventures Limited, he combines his passion for international athletics and polar expeditions with his medical background and skills. He's been a physician for over 15 years, working with both the HSE and the NHS in Ireland and the UK. David holds a medical degree with specializations in surgery and obstetrics from Trinity College Dublin and a DCOM degree from National University of Ireland, Galway. He's traveled to the Arctic and Antarctic regions, providing medical support and emergency response for the athletes and the staff. His dedication to the sport has earned him numerous accolades and a dedicated following of fellow athletes and enthusiasts. David's journey into endurance sports began with a desire to explore the limits of human potential and to inspire others to pursue their own dreams, no matter how ambitious they may seem. His unique approach to combining adventure, endurance, and global exploration has not only set him apart in the world of sports, but has also fostered a sense of international camaraderie and a cultural exchange among participants and spectators alike. His dedication to promoting teamwork, resilience, and the spirit of adventure continues to inspire countless individuals around the world. Beyond his athletic endeavors, David is a passionate advocate for environmental conservation and sustainable living. He uses his platform to raise awareness about the importance of protecting our planet and encourages others to take action in their own communities. His efforts extend to supporting various charitable organizations and initiatives that align with his values of sustainability and global harmony. David, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Chris, much appreciated for the intro.
You bet.
Great to be here.
Good. Glad to have you. Glad we could kind of get things together and be able to do this. So there's a lot of things I want to cover, and I know we'll bounce around a bit, but perhaps maybe you could lead us or take us from the start about learning more about what your early years were like, how you got into athletics and adventure,
no problem at all.
Adventure things, and as well as your medical career.
Yeah, so Chris, initially, I'm from a small town in the west of Ireland called Sligo, a population of about 30,000 people. So I obviously went to school there, and when I graduated there, I studied the BCom, as you mentioned there, which is business, and I specialised in accountancy. It was actually after that, that was in Galway. After that, I went back and studied medicine at Trinity College Dublin. Um, During them years as well, I was like just kind of running crazy, like loved basically everything about running track, cross country. Like I was addicted, and I actually still am. Like I'm still a huge fan, and I tend to go to most of the World Championship and European Championship track every year. So from there onwards, I was after I graduated medicine, I worked, as you said, in the UK and Ireland, which is the HSC and the NHS. And during that time, in 2017, a friend of mine from Galway, which is maybe about, it's on the same coast as Sligo, it's about 2 hours away, Richard Donovan, had approached me he'd have been organising adventure race in the North Pole and Antarctica since the early 2000s. Like he was a real innovator. And I think at one stage, I think he was responsible for bringing up maybe 35 to 40% of the people all that were visiting the North Pole at any stage. So Richard had been organising events, so he'd asked me to come on as the doctor. So from 2017 onwards, I was the medic on all his trips, and I also helped him out with some of the logistics and permitting processes. So that kind of led me on to set up my own event. But, a lot of thanks has to go to him as well, because, he was the visionary on these trips initially.
Wow, that's impressive. So did the BCom then play the role in setting a foundation for the entrepreneurial aspect of developing Ice Cap Adventures?
Yeah, it did. And I suppose it helped up a lot of the company setup and the tax setup as well. It did benefit it. And even during my medical years, I always had a burning desire to set up some form of company. And I had a couple other businesses as well. Like I had an aesthetics business, like Botox and fillers business for a while. But obviously I had to be, with all the travel I'm doing now, it's just not viable. I have to be around to do that.
Right.
And just when I got involved with Richard, I was always interested in the adventure race world. So that led me on to setting up Ice Cap Adventures, and here we are now.
So the thread of running and adventures kind of goes through whatever, from early adolescence to college to medical school. What was the transition to go from the business school, so to speak, or business degree, to medicine? I would imagine very few classes transferred over, I would imagine. So
that is a very good question, Chris. And actually, in Ireland, high school, we do what's called the Leaving Cert. So your final set of exams is the Leaving Cert. So I think in the US, you kind of do the SATs. But so it's a bit different in Ireland. You generally do 6 or 7 subjects, and it can vary from languages to science to maths to business. And depending on the points grade you get on them, you get accepted to university. So actually, after I completed the BCom, I actually went back to high school at 23 years of age to repeat the Leaving Cert.
Wow.
To get the grades to get into medicine.
Good for you. You must have been very committed to that. So had you always had an interest in medicine?
Yeah, I had. No, I had. I always had an interest in science, and I was always pretty good at science and maths. So when I finished business, I was due to go on and do a master's in accountancy. And I just started thinking to myself, do I really want to walk into an accountancy firm? And hey, maybe there's a bit as well, Chris. Maybe I was trying to avoid work as well, Chris. It's college, even though I think probably the working world might have been a bit easier than medicine, because it was just full on exams.
Right.
Yeah, but it's funny, when I was 23, I actually had to put on a school uniform when I went back, Chris, as well. So 23 years of age, I was wearing a school uniform back. But yeah, I put the head.
You'll have to send those pictures to me, David, and we'll put them in LinkedIn.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So okay, so now you're sort of crewing, if you will, as the medical guy for these kinds of races. What sort of things did you see on these adventures? I mean, was it hypothermia and frostbite, or it seems such a different. I have done a fair amount of high altitude climbing and dealt with pretty cold and low oxygen levels. But what is it like on the North Pole to deal with just health in general, but let alone athletes out there trying to do something?
Yeah. So I suppose that, like, at the North Pole, it's very, very cold up there. Like, it gets up to minus 41, minus 42. Now, I know it gets cold in Wisconsin as well, but it's pretty bleak up there.
That beats us, I think.
Yeah. I suppose the one benefit you have of running marathons over doing an expedition up a mountain is it's generally lap, it's obviously laps up there. So you can kind of avoid any of the major things happening by, say, stopping people and getting them into change clothes, warm their hands, warm their
Oh,
feet and stuff as well. Whereas,
mm-hmm.
as you fully appreciate, when you're on a mountain, that's just not
Right.
an option.
Yeah.
So it's, even though there is an adventure aspect to this as well, there's not really many situations where people are unsafe, or that there's any major issues. Like, so you generally keep an eye. The key, and even the key with the Great World Races, it's all lap courses, just to keep an eye on people,
Mm-hmm.
and any problems that might happen, you generally get out ahead of them, well in advance, and that makes their life easier, and also my life in these situations easier as well.
That's great. I know from folks that I've had on and talking about the like the bad water. I know that there's rules that people have to stop at a certain point and have a medical check, and if their vitals are showing that they're kind of in a bad spot, they have the option of pausing and waiting and seeing, getting checked again and seeing if it's good to go, and then they can continue, or they can get medically DNF'd with it. And then I believe the rule, I don't know, this could be an urban myth, but that if anybody ever fusses back at the medical personnel, that they will be disqualified for ever coming back to that race. Is there anything like that with you? Like, were there ever people where you said, hey, you need to, call it a day. This isn't your day for this race, and they fuss back at you? Or what's it like with the interactions? Or are people all pretty good about, taking care of themselves and having a respect for, what the weather's like?
Yeah, I suppose, again, I'm in a lucky position as well that it's generally just a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of cases, Chris, you can get people across the line, because if somebody, just say up at the North Pole, people might be out there maybe 9-10 hours. Like, we were generally up there for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. So people had time.
Mm-hmm.
So you could bring people in, get them warmed up, get them a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, get them to change all their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes in, rehydrating, getting some food on makes a big difference. And then as support crew, you might end up walking or jogging a lap with them as well. So you can keep an extra eye on them.
Nice.
And it's funny you say that about people being pulled out. There's a guy in Ireland that done the event last year, and I'm good friends with him. And I actually met him last week when I was back in Ireland for a cup of coffee. And he was saying there's an adventure race up in, I think it's either Northern Canada or Northern Norway, but it's basically like 360 miles out, and you have to carry a sled with you. You drag a sled with you. And like it's, I think, like, Chris, I think he was actually medically, and he said he's pretty, he's experienced adventure dude. He said he had frostnip, not frostbite.
Oh,
and he said, like, I think he was pulled out at 340 miles, like he had 20 miles left.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. God. Oh yeah, that would be tough. I get it, but it's, those kinds of distances and those kinds of conditions. I mean, your frontal lobe, I think, freezes before anything else, and your judgment kind of goes out the window. I mean, there's, as you and I both know, there's lots of stories about, people hallucinating and seeing, weird little things and talking to people or gremlins that aren't there, sort of a thing. So I really respect the, medical staff that go out and have to, have an appreciation for what the athlete's going through, but then also simultaneously saying, hey, the biggest responsibility is, making sure that this person's safe, isn't going to get injured, and is going to be able to make it back home in one piece. So that's pretty, I've not heard of that race. I'll have to research it and put it in the show notes too. So
yeah, but I suppose as well, you got to be very careful as well on events as well, because with adventure races, expeditions, or anything like that, as I always say, toughness and stupidity are very good friends. So you have to be.
Yep.
And you don't want to be brave and tough. I think it's like, I think I read a thing before, like it's the free climbers,
mm-hmm.
and they said there's old climbers and there's bold climbers. There's not old bold climbers. So
pick one.
Yeah, pick one or the other.
Well, it reminds me, I've had Colin O'Brady on the show a couple of times, and the most recent time he had just done his crossing Antarctica, and he had I forget how much it weighed, but it was well over 150, I don't know what, pounds that he was doing, and I think and he was doing it unsupported, solo, although he did have some, oddly enough, good connectivity with something. I don't know if it's one of those sat phones or what it was, but he, I think, kind of like right off the bat, if memory serves, this is now a while back, like fell into a minor crevasse and and you're just sort of snowblind. You can't see the horizon, from the sky. You can't differentiate. And, it's a mess. So I can't imagine doing, 300 and some odd miles or kilometers and that kind of a thing. Gosh. Oh, well, anyway, so let's circle back to, we'll put on the entrepreneur cap for a second. So with Ice Cap Adventures Limited, tell us its origin story. How did that come up? Was the Great World Race its first event, or, tell us, how that works?
Yeah, it was. So, as I said there, the events were kind of at the back end of Richard Donovan. So Richard actually sold all his events in 2023. I was always keen to obviously do an event, but I was never going to compete. Like I'm very good friends. I was never going to end up competing with him. So Richard's actually in the process of bringing people up to the edge of space in 2026 in a project known as Space Athletics. Do you remember Felix Baumgartner? It's about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, jumped out in the Red Bull project.
Yeah, the Red Bull. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's similar technology. It's like hydrogen balloons bring people up. It's a panoramic view of the Earth. And generally you have like 8 people on the pod. But the aim is to have, like, the plan is to have 5 people on the pod. They will have a treadmill, and the aim for his first expedition up is to break the sub 4 minute mile in space. So that's what he's here.
Oh my gosh! Oh,
yeah.
So is that drawing board, or where is he at with that? What a wild adventure!
No, it's. Yeah, no, it's. I think it's well beyond the drawing board. I think the aim for it is 2026.
Wow.
There will be other like just normal civilians going up on pods of 8, but I think it's maybe the 8 pod going up. The 5th or either 5th or 8th pod going up. I'm not sure, but they'll be the first sports event going up there. So it generally actually goes up from Florida actually. Yeah, I think I'm not 100% familiar. I think you're about 2 hours up, 2.5 hours up there, and 2 hours down. So it's a pretty exciting project. So he's innovating, to say the least.
Wow, that is. I mean, the creativity of that and the audacity too is just really, that is wild. So, is Red Bull involved with that, or does he have any big sponsors, or is that just all kind of put it together?
It's just early stages. Early stages yet. So they have to confirm obviously an athlete that they want to get up to break the 4 minute mile and then go from there. But I suppose there's such a movement towards space the last couple of years.
Sure,
they won't be short of sponsors.
Yeah, wow.
It's not.
Well, let's back channel. Keep me posted. I'll keep that out on our socials. Yeah, that is incredible. So, let's.
So just to actually backtrack to Ice Cap. So Richard sold all his events in 2023, and that led me to set up Ice Cap Adventures, and the Great World Race was obviously the first event of that. And last year was actually the first event in November, and obviously it went. It went well. It went extremely well. Yeah. We obviously got large, widespread exposure. We had obviously Peloton star Bex Gentry on. We had Ashley Paulson from iFit. Gary Brecka, who's basically, I think it's on every platform now. He's obviously very good friends with Dana White, good friends with Donald Trump and stuff as well. Gary had his son doing the event as well. So we did get widespread exposure, and it was great as well because we had. I'm not sure if you're aware of Sean Swarn or Greg Garrorty. The two guys have one functioning lung.
Yes.
Both of them survived terminal cancer. So it was the first event that they ever did together as well.
Wow.
So it's I'm going off point here about Ice Cap. So I'd set up Ice Cap, and last year was the first event of it. Now, we're in a good spot. We're nearly close to capacity already 6 months out.
Congratulations.
I'm in a good spot as well too.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's great. So 2 of my best friends are working with me full time on it now as well. 2 of my childhood friends. So it's been great. Like, you can't beat working with your buddies on something.
Wow. Well, I want to go deep into 2024 and then talk about what 2025 is starting to shape up like. So this is a good way to tee it up. I want to start off with that, one of the things that you very much publicize this on the website, which I deeply respect, that it's not only a test of physical and mental fortitude of participants, but you've also been able to do this, and this is, kind of in my sweet spot. I really respect and appreciate this part of it. Promotes culture exchange and global unity, that you bring together individuals from diverse backgrounds to share in the spirit of competition and cooperation. Could you maybe share some examples of how that, showed itself in this last year in 2024?
Yeah, well, I suppose probably the most evident thing from a different background is we had the youngest ever to the 777 and the oldest. The youngest was 18, Merrick Chernay, and the oldest was Dan Little. So like you have someone that's running like, and then if you want to compare or contrast as well, we have, I suppose, somewhat of elite ladies as well running close to 3 hours. And then we have like people running 7.5 hours. So there is a wide mixture of people.
Wow.
You know, I suppose from an age group and diversity background, and we have actually Santosh Karamuchi's from Boston. He actually was born in Nepal, and he actually initially moved to Texas. So super interesting, him given his background on the contrast and thing. When he actually came to New York, and he says like the big yellow taxis, like he said, he just couldn't believe it. But he said it was so funny because he said then like he went to Texas and he thought there was going to be big yellow taxis in Texas. And he said it was just completely different. Like, and he said like, you know, because he's a physical therapist, and he also ran a pool hall in Nepal. Super interesting background. And then he said, like, when he came to the US, like he said, he thought everything was going to be like New York. But then when he said he moved to Texas, he said it was just kind of like barren fields. He said it was a complete contrast of what, you know, he was sold on before he moved over.
Right.
So yeah, you have super, super interesting stories like that on people, you know, where people came from and their backgrounds.
Gotcha. Well, I love that. And I want to do kind of a deep dive and get kind of nerdy and granular with you. So I'm going to read some of my background research on this stuff. So tell me, fact check me and correct me if I have any errors in what I'm about to cover, because it was just so impressive to see who you had. I mean, it's really kind of a who's who, but then also like some of these times that they were running in some of these circumstances and thinking, oh, and just, you know, 10 minutes ago I was on a jet, and 10 hours ago I was in a different continent. So in 2024, you had, again, a lot of rock stars. You had Ashley Paulson, Jenny Simpson, David Kilgore, Bex Gentry, as you said. Jenny, for those that might not know, is a 2011 world champion in the 1500, was a late addition to the field. And she, I think, was fresh off from New York City marathon, and where she put in an amazing 2:31:54. Ashley is a two-time winner of Badwater. David Kilgore won the 2023 World Marathon Challenge, which was another 7-continent, 7-day marathon series, and joined. So for these kind of the who's who, how did you recruit them? Are they all buddies of yours, and you just said, hey, we want to put this together? Or tell us how, you know, from the athletic and entrepreneurial aspect, how you were able to get these folks in.
Yeah, so I suppose if we start with David Kilgore, I knew David as well. Richard Donovan used to own the World Marathon Challenge, so I was the doctor on that. So that's how I knew David. I would have been good enough buddies with him. I was actually texting him yesterday.
Perfect.
Yeah, so the likes, I think he had said it to Bex, and Bex was interested. That's how Bex came on. The rest, a lot of it was just kind of word of mouth and advertising, and, you know, just someone knew somebody and they put them in contact, or they seen potentially one of my ads, or they just came across the website. Because Ashley Paulson actually contacted me in December 2023, like Ashley is just like a ball of energy. I was on a call with her for like maybe 40 minutes. I could have stayed on 4 hours with her. You know, like, she's unbelievable. Like, even when she was injured, she was injured just before the marathon in Cartagena. She like, even in Miami, like, she is, I have to say, like, no one can ever criticize her for being a sore loser, because like, she's unbelievably positive, even though she was running with an injury and stuff like that. Like, I have to give serious kudos to her as well. Like, she's unbelievable. Like, she's unbelievable to work with. And actually her husband Matt was there as well. He's super, super good guy. I think he actually launched, I don't want to, because I know someone will end up probably ringing me up. I'm not sure, is it a pickle or a paddle brand, apparel brand, pretty recently as well. So they were great to deal with. And in the case of Jenny Simpson, it's funny, not that she remembered me, but I actually was when Jenny actually was recruited into Boulder in University of Colorado. I was there the first day she actually arrived on campus. I was up there training for about maybe 4 or 5 week period.
Wow.
Now, obviously, I said it to her. She tried to pretend that she might have known me, but I just said, Jenny, you don't remember me. It's all right. I can handle it. My ego. My ego will be a bit more frail after, but that's okay. So I was obviously actually a huge fan of Jenny. I remember the year she won the World Championships. She also she had 2 medals post that, and she also had an Olympic medal. So I just thought she was an unbelievable competitor, very tough, like, just brilliant. So I was always a big fan. So when I was actually in New York when she ran that. It was about maybe 10 days before the marathon. I heard she'd retired. So I had like I had actually space, so I just actually actually one person dropped out maybe about a week beforehand,
Uh-huh.
so I just contacted her in the back end. I sent a message on Instagram, and I said, "How are you getting on? This, that, etc. Would you be interested in doing the event?" She kind of messaged me back, and she goes, "Yeah." She messaged me back like 2 days later. She goes, "Yeah, listen, I'm happy to set up a call." So I set up a call with her, like, and I just kind of talked her through it. And I think she thought it was a scam initially. She goes, like, "What's going on? Like, what's the catch?" And she was just there, like, she goes, "I'm kind of retired." And she actually rang. I'm friends with Ryan Hall as well. She rang Ryan and she said, "Listen, Ryan, what's the story?" And she goes, like, "What's the story with these guys?" And Ryan goes, "No, these guys are legit." Like, he goes, "I know this guy well. Like, you should do it." And then she was kind of over and back on the mail. I said, "Jenny, just do it. Don't even think about it." And her husband Jason, who super nice dude as well, like, I talked to him on the call as well. He was laughing because he had said to her, "I'm actually surprised you're even considering doing it." He goes, "That's great." So eventually I just said, "Listen," I rang her then again. I said, "Listen, Jen, just do it." And she goes, "Right, I'm in." And then, like, I got a couple of texts afterwards, "I can't believe I'm doing it," and stuff like that. But she came back 2 days later. 2 days later, she was down in Cape Town. I met her in Cape Town, so we had a good laugh
Wow.
about it. Yeah.
Oh,
But
I love
yeah,
that.
I think like, it's funny as well because with Jenny, as I said in the race briefing, like, she's she's up there with one of the greatest US athletes of all time, like medals wise and stuff like that. It's like, it's very, very hard. Like, she had 4 medals over like a 10-year period. I think she made like 7 or 8 world and Olympic finals over that period as well, which is
Wow.
unbelievable. Like,
Gosh. Yeah, she's an
you know,
animal. I mean, that's great. Yeah, and so that's what I mean. I mean, it really is. To launch something like this and to have such a who's who of the royalty, of running is just really impressive. And probably, I would imagine, kind of, for you, just managing everything probably isn't the fun part, but just being able to spend that time with that caliber of people, and just my experience, I'm sure yours is the same. That people that do these kinds of things are just the kindest, sweetest, salt of the earth, folks. And just, it's always like I'm in awe of them and have great respect. And they're just, they're a lot of times you meet people that, are your heroes and you get disappointed. And I have to a T never had that experience with any, distance athlete, which is, I think, also kind of speaks to who they are, the fabric of their personality and composition.
yeah, no, to be fair, it was an outstanding crew of people that done the event. Like, they were very, very easy going. It was a great group on the plane, and as I said, they're in a lucky spot as well. A lot of the support crew were all my childhood friends from home as well. So there was probably about maybe 12 of us
Wow.
there, and I think, like, bar maybe 2 people, everyone was from my hometown in Sligo.
That good for you. That is so cool. Now, we've been talking about the marathon. I'm going to circle back and get nerdy about some of the stats and the numbers in a second. But before we do, you also have a half, right? So there's a full marathon and a half marathon. Is that right?
That is correct. That
Okay.
is correct.
And there is, if my data are correct, that there are 60 participants. How many were runners in which distances?
Yeah. So initially there was only one entrant in the half, but generally what happens, Chris, in these events, people do, as people get a bit more fatigued, some people do move up and down to the marathon. So they might do maybe 2 marathons on the first 2 continents. On the
Oh,
third continent, they might do a half marathon and move back up to the marathon. So I
nice.
always advise people, if they're a bit unsure, to start with the marathon,
Uh-huh.
because we always have time and they can always move down and stuff as well. So that's what I always do say to people.
That's
Yeah, so that's the option there. So I think there was about, I think out of the total, I think there might have been like 5, maybe 6 people then that kind of moved between the marathon and the half marathon.
That's a wonderful option, because I could imagine, even if people are hardy marathoners and stuff, the thought of doing 7 in a row, let alone on a different continent every day, would be a bit intimidating. So I think that's very smart. That's very clever. So now I'm going to get nerdy for a second. So again, want to be fact checked, but I believe the marathons are all measured by AIMS and World Athletics and sanctioned by the respective national athletic federations. And the Antarctica race is also recognized by the Antarctica Athletics Federation, which to me, I think it's crazy to think there even is such a thing. And the race then meets all the criteria for recognition by Guinness World Records and the Book of Alternative Records authorities. Is all that mouthful correct?
Yeah, that is all correct. And I'm
Wow.
in a lucky spot as well. Like, say, we have extremely experienced people on the ground at each location. The case of Cape Town, we have a company called Top Events. Andrew Bell is the leader there, and like they initially organized the Cape Town Marathon, and they also organized the Kilimanjaro Marathon. Great to deal with. In Perth, Dave Cundy organised it. And actually, Dave is a very interesting guy. His wife, Fran Cundy, lovely. They run a tour operator company out of Sydney. Unbelievable to deal with. But Dave was actually the race director of the Sydney Olympic Marathons, men's and women's event.
Jeez.
And he was also the lead measure of the London Marathon for 11 years. So, and then say in the cases of, Istanbul, it was the Federation of Istanbul. They organised the Istanbul Marathon. So they actually organised the official Istanbul Marathon, and they organised the marathons there.
Wow.
And in Miami, we had a guy called Robert Pozo. Robert, brilliant guy. He actually set up the Miami Marathon, I think in 2001 or 2002, and he sold it in 2011. So the people we have are extremely experienced on organising events.
How do you go about finding those people? I mean, in terms of, I do want to nerd out on logistics and stuff. I mean, just even that part of it, like, is it such a small community that it's easy to kind of, get to the right person, or, what's the level of difficulty and what's the mechanics behind the curtain to try and pull all those things together?
Yeah, it is relatively easy. The running world is a small world as well, and like you would know, I would have had a lot of contacts of working with Richard that time that I would have made myself. So that obviously made my life a lot easier. But the running world is a very small world, and I have a lot of friends that are actually coaching, say, elite and international athletes, and I'm friends with a few sports agents. So it's actually funny. The elite levels does filter down to, I suppose, the grassroots athletics as well. Generally, someone who's involved in grassroots athletics knows all the people at the more senior level in each country as well. So it's somewhat easier to get it done, the fact I have an athletics background, because you generally always know someone who knows somebody. And, after that, it's just generally finding a location. The one thing is, Chris, about running is all our courses are looped. Courses are out and back courses. So you might have said 10 by 4.2 kilometer loops. They're extremely simplistic to measure and stuff as well. So it's not like you have to kind of close down a city or anything like that. It's a relatively simple job to measure them, and then getting them ratified takes a bit of time as well. But it's great. When you're working with good people, life is always easy.
That's really smart. That is really smart. I mean, everything you're saying, like from being able to go up and down with the marathon and half and all that. What's it like for Antarctica? I mean, do people does someone from Guinness or something go out there, or like how is that all measured out? That just seems like you're kind of literally, out in the middle of nowhere, and the complications with that. Tell us, unpack Antarctica.
Yeah, it's the same as everything else, just measured with wheels, etc., like all the other courses are.
Wow.
And you're down there in advance, and you have to measure it. You're down there a couple of days in advance or the season before, get it measured out, and it's then you just submit. Yeah, so it's funny as well, because you always have people coming back saying, "Oh, this is over distance and that's over distance." But like with GPS, when you're cutting corners, or like when you're doing different, like when you're going around loop courses and all that, you generally will be a bit over distance. Because people always say, and I'm just there, guys, these guys have like measured hundreds of marathons. And we always kind of say, if it's over distance there, we just say, listen, we gave you that extra couple of 100 meters for free.
That's good. Very generous.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I said, we won't charge you for that.
So what is it like? Sorry, go ahead.
Just actually, I deal with it actually in Antarctica as well. I've obviously been in multiple locations in Antarctica. I've been in a couple of locations flying in from Cape Town. I've also been flying in from Punta Arenas in Chile. But the group we work with, it's a White Desert, it's kind of extremely premium brand down there. They're unbelievable to work with. The CEO down there, Patrick Woodhead, outstanding, and his right man Kieran is just they're unbelievable. Like they're like a breath of fresh air to deal with. And it's funny, they're a breath of fresh air to deal with in like a pretty, hazardous location.
Right.
As can happen from time to time, but I'm in a lucky position in that situation.
So is it then like, sorry to be like, this is probably one of the dumbest questions I'll ask, but so a plane lands, and then people disembark, and then what? Is it tents? Are there structures? Is the course near the airstrip, or how does that? I can't even picture in my mind like what happens next.
Yeah, so just to go back, when Patrick set it back up, I think Patrick set it up in maybe 06 or 07. It was 3 tents and 3 credit cards is what he told me. That's how we started off the base there.
That's good.
Yeah, and he was an adventurer himself. He had trekked across the Antarctica. He trekked across a few things. He broke a couple of world records. Well, great guy, super guy to deal with now. Like, but yeah, Patrick, because I was asking him, he goes, yeah, Dave. He says I had 3 tents and 3 credit cards. It has changed a lot since then. Like, they are like there's kind of semi-solid structures there. It is unbelievably high end because like I'd been used to being down there in different locations, and the food generally in some of the Arctic conditions, you know, food and toiletries, they're fine, but they're not like, you know, it's not like you're getting grand 3-course meals.
Of course not.
That actually is the case in White Desert. The food is unbelievable down there. Like, because I went in, I was on a sat phone ringing Cape Town. Someone goes, "Are you hungry?" And they just handed me a burrito. And then I came in when I was finished. It was like beef bourguignon was being served. There was lovely cheeses. There was actually really good coffee and everything. So the standard they do down there is out. It is second to none.
That's cool.
It is unbelievable. Like, yeah. Wow. So that obviously helps everyone as well, because, you know, it gets it off to a good start, good food, good drink. Everyone's pretty delighted.
Yeah. And that is the first part of the leg, right? That's everyone starts in Antarctica. Or do they meet in Cape Town and then go to Antarctica, or do they run in Cape Town, or tell it? Maybe step us through the countries, and I'll go back to being nerdy.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry as well. You just asked, just because to answer the question, you said, you know, how when we get off the plane. So when we get off the plane in Antarctica, the start line is about we walk about, just get to the tent about 300 or 400 meters from where the plane lands. And then the course is 10.55 kilometers, and it goes past the runway. There's 2 smaller planes there known as Baslers, which are the planes that fly to the South Pole. We pass there. We also kind of pass in and out around the mountain range as well. So it's extremely picturesque down there. So that's how we get started. So it's very much we get down there and get started straight away, so people have a bit of time at the finish. And just to then, everyone meets in Cape Town. So in this year, it's the same dates as last year. This year, November 12th, we meet in Cape Town. November 13th, there's a pre-race briefing with myself. November 14th, there's a race briefing with the Antarctic Logistics Company. And November 15th is when we fly in. So we fly in from Cape Town Airport. It's about 5 to 5.5 hours in. We land. We're about 8 hours on the ice. We get started pretty quickly. About 5.5 hours back. Second marathon is in Cape Town along Sea Point Promenade. So there we passed by the World Cup soccer stadium. I think it held the World Cup soccer semi-finals when the World Cup was in South Africa. Also, Table Mountain is in the distance when you're on the course. You're along the Atlantic coast.
Beautiful.
Then we fly to Perth. In the case of Perth, it's along the Swan River. It is right beside the Optus Stadium, which is the main cricket ground and Australian rules ground in Perth. And also the Crown Casino is on the course. Last year, we did Istanbul for Europe and Asia, but we have changed it up this year. We're going to go to Abu Dhabi in UAE and the Algarve in Portugal. So they'll all be kind of looped courses. Then the 6th course then is in Cartagena, Colombia. It's along the Caribbean coast. It's about 2.5 kilometers outside the old town, which is a famous UNESCO site. It's warm and humid in Cartagena. That is one issue down there, but it's a pretty picturesque place as well. And then we finish in Miami Beach. We start and finish on 53rd Street on Miami Beach Boardwalk.
Wow.
So it's that's kind of a quick synopsis of all the locations.
Wow. That is awesome. Okay, well, we'll circle back to that. Thank you for that overview. So one of the things, just back maybe to the entrepreneurial side of it. So it's not cheap. You know, registration, I think last year was in dollars, I think around 52,000. But that was all inclusive. So there were chartered flights. I presume I don't know if was it all chartered flights, or were there other? Okay.
No, it was all chartered flights. So Antarctica chartered the Antarctic Logistics Company, White Desert, chartered a plane. It's an Airbus A340 into Antarctica. And then from there onwards, it's a private business class charter jet around the world.
Wow.
So the jet we used, like last year, the Rolling Stones had used it for a previous world tour. Guns N' Roses had used it for a previous world tour. So it was all lie flat seats.
Wow.
VIP catering, like the food, everything on it was very, very good. Like, so, and there was a couch on the plane that one of the physical therapists that was there was doing some treatments, and it was actually Axl Rose who requested the couch to be installed.
That's a great backstory. So, and I would imagine too, then that lends itself to the nice maintenance of the camaraderie and story, sharing and things like that, and also just to the logistical speed of things that, rather than worrying about getting people on board, and how was passports and stuff like that? Was that a hassle from country to country, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so good question. So with the event as well, you do need a charter jet. You wouldn't be able to do it with say,
Fly United. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you might. There's some chance if you maybe have 5 or 6 people, you might be able to do it like fly coach or fly,
Right.
regular flights. When you do get up in the numbers, there's no way, because getting people through airports,
Yeah.
like getting say 60, 80 people with my crew through airports, it's somewhat of a slow process, and you do need a private charter jet. Passports. As I said, generally people always take care of their own visas, but I generally kind of give light advice on it. But in most cases, a lot of countries, including the US, only probably require a visa for Australia, and if you're non-US, from the US. Most of the other places there was one or two actually countries that people had to get visas for, like South Africa and stuff as well. But generally, it's somewhat of a simple process, and most actually of these applications now are relatively simple. Like I think back to when I think it was the Morrison visa, you had to come to the US, say 25, 30 years ago. It was a bit of an ordeal to get it.
Right.
But now most visa applications are online.
Yeah.
In the case of Australia,
Yeah.
I think my application took about 7 minutes. So it's
That's good.
but
That's good.
but Chris, there's always hassle with passports. There's always lost passports. There's always with all the bags and movement.
Sure.
Generally, now everyone always finds it, but there's generally always something on planes. It turns out we were on the plane from Perth, and one of the guys, because they check all the passports just before we leave. One of the guys was on the plane and couldn't find his passport, and he wouldn't have got in. He wouldn't have got into Istanbul, and couldn't find his passport. Literally about 20 minutes before we land, someone opened up their backpack. They'd put his passport mistakenly into their backpack.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. I would imagine those kinds of things, just bound to happen. I mean, just statistically speaking, there's got to be hiccups here and there. So
yeah, that's going to happen as well. People in, close proximity,
Right.
everyone hanging out, people getting, coffees and dinners and stuff, maybe in airports, they're sitting down, people leave passports and stuff down, and then
Right.
all of a sudden. So it's definitely one thing that I've said to people over and over: your passport is your friend. Do not lose it. You can lose everything else. That we cannot solve.
So are you kind of like the mother hen, so to speak? I don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean, are you kind of herding the cats, so to speak, to make sure that everything runs on time and all the background stuff, let alone the the deals having to deal with the athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I am, and there's always I suppose a method to the madness as well. If we're from a timeline point of view, we always have plenty of time to complete the event, but there is certain limitations as well. There's a couple of airports where they might be closed down for a couple of hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours at night time. So you kind of have to meet them deadlines. Now, it's not the end of the world if you miss them. However, it's a lot easier if you adhere to them. And there's certain locations like that, even avoiding traffic in certain cities and stuff as well.
Oh gosh.
It always makes, because even like if you can get to an airport in 30 minutes instead of being, say, stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours, it's a lot easier for the athletes, and it's a lot easier for me. And even ease of going through the airports. We're gonna land in Faro this year, which is in Portugal. It's down the Algarve. That time of year, there's only about 30 flights going to Faro a day. So like it'll be a quiet airport that time of year. And plus it's really good weather. It's like mid-60s, no humidity that time of year. So simple things like that make life a lot easier for the participants and myself. So there's always a bit of thought in the background to that as well.
How do you, like, when you do land, is it like one big bus that can accommodate 80 people? Is it a parade of smaller buses? How do you even deal with that to get to, the race sites and stuff?
Yeah, so generally it's 2 buses for the participants, and generally we have a 3rd bus for bags as well.
Oh, sure.
So that's generally the way we do it. Like, because people bring a lot of baggage with them on these events.
And so with dealing with those kinds of things, is that just also with local outfitters, so to speak, to be able to coordinate all those kinds of things? And do people, I'm guessing there's not enough time for someone to check into a hotel. Does everybody just generally sleep on the plane, or how does that work?
Yeah, so with whoever organizes the marathon at each location, they generally will take care of the buses for me as well, because a lot of these people, if they're used to organizing big city marathon, they're used to dealing with bus companies, etc. So the logistics company at each location just take care of all the buses, etc. for me. And that makes my life a lot easier because it just cuts out an extra phone call or an extra email thread that I have to follow up on, as you know, these things accumulate pretty quickly. In last year's event regarding the hotel, we didn't have any overnight hotel, but the aim this year is actually, despite us having one more location, we probably have 6 or 7 hours, like 6 hours, 7 hours less on the plane because we don't have any fueling stops. It's going to be all direct flights this year, ranging from about 8.5 to 11.5 hours, with the exception of Cartagena to Miami, which is about 2.5 hours. So the aim is to have an overnight in Abu Dhabi, and also the aim is to arrive back in Miami the night before the final marathon and have another overnight hotel there.
Wow. Do you keep the same
That's
pilots?
the plan at the moment.
Or do they swap out? Do you swap out pilot? You know, with...
No, the pilots swap out, because even like the pilots will be swapping out after every flight.
Gotcha.
It's the charter company takes care of that now as well, and even the staff,
Wow.
the air staff check out as well. Now, the air stewardess were excellent last year on it, but they might be gone. They might be there for the first leg and they might come back on the fourth leg, but they're not there for the whole time because obviously it's all with aviation law as well. There's only a certain amount of hours they can fly per month as well, like, so, and per day.
Yeah, you don't want to be an endurance race for them. So that's good. I wondered about that too.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, it'd be the exact same guidelines as any regular plane,
except that it has Axl Rose's couch in it. So that's so cool.
Axl Rose down the back.
Yeah. So. Now I'm going to get my nerd hat on again. So I saw in Runner's World, looked at the results, and I'll put these. It's hard to hear sometimes in a podcast oral point, but I'll also put this in the LinkedIn companion article. But I'm going to run down through some of the records and some highlights, and then of the data, and then I'm going to, if you don't mind, after I've gone through them, just pick and choose whichever you want to comment on to give some color commentary. So I'll run through my quick little bulleted list, and then feel free to weigh in on any or all of these. So pardon me, Hillary Kapish, I think, is that how you pronounce her last name?
That is correct.
Yeah, good. From the States, set a new women's world record of 3:12:12 for the fastest average marathon time for 7 marathons on 7 continents within 7 days. And after this, I'm just going to call it 777 to make it easier on my tongue. The first 4 women broke the existing record of 3:25:57. Hillary and Bex Gentry from Great Britain set a new women's world record for the shortest duration to complete 777, doing so in 6 days, 3 hours and 53 minutes. The first 14 women marathon finishers broke the existing record of 6 days, 7 hours and 58 minutes. You commented on Merrick and Dan being the youngest, Merrick, and the oldest, Dan, 81, to do a 777. Kim Como from the States set a new women's world record for the shortest duration to complete 7 half marathons on 7 continents, doing it in 6 days, 3 hours, and 14 minutes. William Munsell from Ireland set a new men's Antarctica Continental Marathon record of 2:38:42, which just blows me away. And in the best of conditions, to run a 2:38 is pretty impressive, but let alone in Antarctica. And then Ashley Paulson from the States set a new women's Antarctica Continental Marathon record of 3:18:02, tackling snow and ice at what I read was 3 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. And then I think you made reference to this. She had an injury during the Cartagena race, and the temperatures, just to have listeners realize the difference from the start toward the end, was 92 degrees Fahrenheit. So just, unbelievable. And also tip of the hat again, and a secondary shout out to Sean and Greg to, doing all these kinds of things with one functioning lung. So that's kind of my highlight reel of the stats. Any, color commentary you want to weigh in on with any of those experiences of, what you witnessed or what it was like?
Yeah, so actually just, I suppose, comment on Hillary first. Hillary ended up, I think, entering in maybe July of last year. As it turns out, I was actually in Vegas at the time, and so was she. And she set up a call. I ended up talking to her. She signed up. And Hillary actually had ran New York just about maybe 10 or 12 days before we started. She ran 2:44 in New York. So when she came in, she would have been a relative unknown, I suppose, compared to Bex and Ashley as well. And Shireen Nigem, the other lady, Shireen had actually ran in the Olympics for Lebanon, but she'd also skied in 3 previous Winter Olympics for Lebanon as well.
Wow.
So she, so pretty interesting background there as well. So Hillary came in, and there was great camaraderie with all the ladies early on. And I will say one thing about them, Chris. They're unbelievably durable. Like I think I was talking to Bex and even Hillary, like they were cycling, they were running like about 110 miles a week.
Wow.
I think Bex might have been running 130 mile a week. And like she was running this, she is a young child. She was also running a Peloton, and probably in the 6 or 8 weeks up, it was like the winter in New York. They're unbelievably tough and durable. Because I think Bex had rang me maybe 2.5 weeks before the event, and she was running to pick up her child, and she like stubbed her toe in the bed, and she was all swollen.
Oh gosh!
She said she thought her toe was broken, but she didn't bother going. So like about 4 days later, she just ran 30 miles or 32 miles around the perimeter of New York. She said it was painful, but she said I should be fine.
Oh,
so it was
wow.
It was great, and as I said, it was great. And obviously Hillary broke the fastest average record. I think I actually talked to her. She's talking about potentially coming back this year. She said she'll decide in the next couple of weeks.
Wow.
So hopefully she does. And I know Ashley, I've talked to Ashley a couple of weeks back as well. Ashley is also potentially keen to come back as well. I think she has her eyes on that record.
Nice.
But again,
she's
unbelievably durable as well. Like she had a labral tear pre the Cartagena race. She ran in her hip. She ran the 2 marathons. And like when I talked to Ashley in December of 23, she had torn ligaments in her foot in October of 23, had got surgery. 7 weeks later, she had ran a 100-mile race in Vegas and broke the record. I think 2 weeks after that, she had ran another 100-mile.
Dave,
so like,
man, can you? Gosh.
Yeah. No, I can't. From a medical point of view, Chris, I'm not even going to get into.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not even going to get into how bad that is. But I was laughing with her. I think she contacted her orthopedic surgeon and goes, "Is this fine?" She goes, "I can't say it's fine." He goes, "I'm not sure if it'll do any harm, but I can't say it's fine."
Yeah.
So like saying that to her is just saying like, "Oh, you're fine. Just go out and run the 100 miles."
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
They're really, really tough. I have to say, like they are like, and just from a volume point of view, intensity point of view, and to be fair, there wasn't like with these events and the level they were running at, people are generally fatigued and tired. So like with that, you might get people that are a bit annoyed at situations. There was zero of that. It was all extremely positive, which is, and over a 7-8 day period, that's not just put on because there will be fractures there that will come out, but like not with the poor ladies. They were an absolute breath of fresh air, as was everyone else on the event.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, just, the stress of dealing with things and also wanting to perform well. It's not one of these things of, gee, I hope I finish. It's like, gee, I hope I win or I set a record or I, PR or whatever. But just that friends and neighbors that travel with each other in close quarters all the time can become very crabby, that circumstance can be stressful and difficult. But the fact that they're able to, keep it together and to have, like you said, that kind of durability, that's a great word with it, to be able to do those kinds of things under those kinds of circumstances. Really a, deep respect and tip of the hat to them. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And then I suppose you comment on Merrick, who was 18, who signed up to do it. Like he hadn't even started. He had done a couple of weeks in college because we were laughing. He was in it's not sorority group because he's
fraternity.
Fraternity. And fraternity. He was actually in a fraternity. So he had only joined a fraternity about 6 weeks beforehand. He was a freshman in college in the University of Michigan. And like, I think the guys were saying, like, you're doing what? Like, because obviously everyone's just there partying and stuff like that. Like, because I think someone asked him, like, did they leave you alone? And he said, I probably shouldn't have said I was doing anything because I think they made it worse for him. But very durable. He was 18 when he done it as well. Like, great guy to deal with as well. And then obviously the legend that is Dan Little. Dan Little is back again this year, like 81 years of age, wants to do the event until he's 90 years of age.
Wow.
Like just an absolute breath of fresh air, runs every day. Used to actually play tennis. He runs a law firm down in Oklahoma. He initially went to Harvard and then he went to Oklahoma Law, like just so positive. And, testament that age is not a number. And he just said, if you don't use it, you lose it. And he said, at my age, he said you can lose it very quickly. And it's actually, I heard a quote there. It's about 2 months ago. I heard a quote. It was a lady who was 90 years of age. And she said, if I had to give anyone advice She goes, when I look back now, if I'd known at 80, I was still young. It's a good, it's good advice to take on board.
No kidding. That is good. Wow. Well, and again, just that whole diversity of all these, like you've got world class athletes, you've got Olympians, you've got, a freshman in undergrad, and you've got a 81-year-old attorney, who ain't quitting yet. Just all of that just, kind of gives me the proverbial goosebumps of imagining the kinds of conversations and the kinds of, relationships and friendships that were, put together, with tip of the hat to you, thanks to you for having these opportunities where such people can come together and have these kinds of experiences is pretty amazing.
No, much appreciated, because I appreciate the sentiment.
So, with holding such an event, what is it like for you, like personally? I mean, part of it sounds kind of cool how you were able to design it with a lot of lifelong friends. But what's it like for you from just being thank goodness things went well and everybody like did amazing work. But share what the emotional and whatever other part of it was like for you to do this sort of a thing.
Yeah, obviously, I consider myself as supposed to handle stress, pretty well. So it's just very much from a logical point of view. It's a step-by-step process. You have an idea, the locations, you have, the planes you're going to use, and then it's very much just fill in the planes and
Execute.
I suppose last year was the first year of the event. A lot of it did lie on my shoulders. Like I had two of my friends, Dermot McDermott and Joseph Galler. The two lads are like, I know the lads since like probably over 30 years.
Wow.
The two of them would work. Dermot was actually the lead coach of Paralympics Ireland.
Wow.
And Joe was a fitness trainer. So the two guys were like just helping me out in the background. A lot of it did fall on me initially because I probably knew the logistics, knew the ins and outs of all the courses and stuff as well. And Dermot had been on one or two projects with Richard Donovan as well previously, but maybe not in the same in-depth knowledge as me. So any of the participants we talked to, I had to talk to them. I had to do most of the mails and stuff as well. So I suppose I did a majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys were in there, we were going around to expos, and they're obviously full-time with me now, and they're taking over some of the sales process, and they know the project inside out now as well. So that's great. It's as I said there, because people are saying, how do you get on working with them? And I said, the only criticism I have of the two guys, and it's actually a testament to them, is they're very difficult to pay. They do not want to take money off me.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. Like, yeah.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, so that's,
wow.
Yeah, so that's the type of friendship you're talking about.
Wow, how heartwarming that must be in so many different levels then. That's great. So you talked about the new itinerary for 2025. Do you think that, like with the only question I have, I guess maybe initially with this is like did you say Abu Dhabi in the UAE? Is that one of the new cities?
That is correct.
Is that going to be, is heat going to be an issue with that one, sort of like in Colombia, or what do you expect with that might be different?
Yeah, so it is going to be warm, Chris. And with these events, you're generally going to have, I always say, you're going to have one probably event at nighttime, and you're probably going to have one event in the heat. Mm-hmm. In Abu Dhabi, the aim is probably to arrive pretty early in the morning. Actually, in Abu Dhabi, it gets quite warm in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So, like, the aim is probably to arrive there early in the morning and run early in the morning, because with events as well, Chris, it's not a big deal. If you can get, like, say people are running 4 hours or 5 hours, if they get the first 3 or 4 hours over where you're in kind of darkness or temperatures, once you get to the last couple of miles, you will get through it. It's not a problem. It's, we just want to try and somewhat circumvent starting in the sun, but sometimes there's no real solution around that, but starting certainly. But the aim in Abu Dhabi will be to start early in the morning. Smart. And the aim in Cartagena is to arrive at nighttime and start like late nighttime and probably finish like the last finish will be early in the morning and get to Miami. So I do try and avoid any extremes of temperatures, but sometimes it is unavoidable as well.
That's so smart too. And I would imagine, one of the things we haven't even said is just the whole aspect of considering time zones and jet lag and things along those lines too. So sometimes, getting up and running in the middle of the night may not feel like it's the middle of the night other than it's dark outside. So I can't imagine what it's like for the athlete. Well, you too. I mean, for anybody on this adventure to, what that's like of just all these different kinds of things. So off mic, when we were just kind of chatting before we got going, I had mentioned, and I also mentioned in the intro about being a passionate advocate for environmental conservation. What is it? How is it that you manage the offset for the carbon emissions? You're involved with something with that as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So in the case of White Desert. White Desert do all the write-off in Antarctica, so they've been carbon neutral since 2007, and they have,
Wow.
so they have, because they obviously bring in a lot of science projects there as well to various bases. So in the case of Antarctica, although it's a commercial venture where they're bringing people down to the camp, they do a lot of flights in to various research bases in the area. So I think their aim as well, they have it's called a net zero by 2050. It's some science-based target in line with the Paris Agreement that they have plans for.
Wow.
So that's in Antarctica. In the case of the other offset, I do offset it with a company in the US, and what they do is it's like a carbon offset, and they offset it in various different projects around the world, which can vary between obviously forestation. There is other ones as well with blue algae and things as well. So it's they try and get a mix of conservation projects in different locations. We try and get it on each of the continents, so it's somewhat it's somewhat neutral across all the continents, but it's not always as easy to get and stuff like that. But that's what I do, and you just don't have a choice these as well. You have to be very cognizant of what you're doing out there as well. But as I say to people as well, even though it is a private jet around the world, it is only a once-off event and stuff like that, and we do adhere to all the guidelines. So, but
Brilliant.
It's good, and you have no choice as well. Like I think it'd be very foolish and naive to think that you have to be thinking about the environment at all times as well.
Yeah, brilliant. That's again, just all the little minutia, all the little detail kinds of things seem so well thought out and with great execution and creativity. So I also have to ask, what advice for listeners that maybe get inspired and motivated about this and come to your website and look at things? We'll put links in the show notes and on LinkedIn. What advice would you give to someone that's aspiring to participate in the Great World Race in 2025?
I would say, Chris, sign up straight away. I like to think that we provide a life-changing service and event. And I think a lot of people, when they do events like this, they make lifelong friends. And it's also sometimes a dividing line in their life that there's pre-Great World Race and there's post-Great World Race.
Wow.
And people do often see things differently afterwards. And I've had numerous calls after the event last year. People said they were thinking about changing career, and they just did look at things a lot differently. So if that's the least I can do, I've definitely achieved my goal. And I want to have a situation that, like, when everyone does the events that I organize, that is the best event they've ever done. Or up there with it, because it's not a cheap price tag, but that's what I want to provide, and I believe we do provide that as well. I said it's hands-on approach. Dermot as well, my right hand man. Dermot coached 14 of the athletes last year as well, so he's coached a couple of Olympians. He's coached like dozens of D1 athletes that have come here on scholarship and international athletes. So any help, that's all provided, and that's all part of the entry fee. And it's not like he's not over and back on mail. He generally talks to their runners 2-3 times a week as well. So it's very much a hands-on approach. And if anyone is unsure if they'll get through it, we had 2 people last year that signed up with about just under 4 months left. Neither of them had ran a marathon before, and we got them through the event.
Wow. That's bravo. That is really impressive. Well, and again, just the whole going marathon, half marathon, whatever, you have really thought out the options and opportunities to be able to make this, global to people that are, go from wherever they were pre-marathon to actually achieving such a life, in this instance, as you've said, a life-changing kind of experience. In doing my background, is there a documentary in the works? I thought I saw something on IMDb or something. Is that
There is actually a documentary in the works now. The one on IMDb might not be it, but I actually have a documentary. I'm getting it produced at the moment.
Wonderful.
I'm hoping it should be out hopefully in the next 8 weeks. But with these things, Chris, they
Sure.
also often take a bit of time. Yeah,
Right.
So we'll definitely have it posted up on YouTube, etc., and we'll definitely get it posted out there. So I'll definitely send you on a link when we have it done.
Good. I'll share that with all the platforms and audience that I have as well too. So. I also have to ask, do you have time to compete anymore? Do you still run competitively?
No, it's I probably think about it every day, Chris. I do miss it.
Yeah.
But as I said there, I'm probably retired like 10 or 12 years now. I retired at the bottom. The dream was definitely over.
Oh.
So no, I do. I jog once or twice a week. I have a couple injuries, calf injuries and stuff like that. So I run maybe 4 or 5 miles twice a week, and I kind of keep somewhat healthy, do a bit of gym work. But no, to say I train like the olden days would definitely be a lie and an exaggeration. But I do miss it. And I'm a huge athletics fan. But I do miss the competitive side. I suppose the singular focus as well of athletics as well. Like I was I was a good club. Like I ran for Ireland a couple of times internationally. I was a good club, like, club level athlete, but I do miss the competitive side as well. But then again, like, I take a lot of positives from it as well.
Yeah.
A huge amount of my friends, like the two guys that are working on me, were friends from running and stuff as well. So, you make such good friends from running as well, because you're kind of, it's not exactly a glamorous sport when you're out there in the west of Ireland running through mucky fields in wind and rain.
Right. Yeah, every run in Ireland, I think, is more like an adventure race. I think so.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, my gosh, with your calendar and your time, I can't imagine how you could, fit it in even. So it's good that you do what you're doing to be able to have that involvement and give the opportunity to so many others. So.
Chris, just to pick up that point, sorry, I just want to just to pick up that point about travel, just to let you know, there's a guy who done it last year, Dan Rabella. He works for IBM. He's a C-suite executive with IBM. He's going to do it again this year. Dan traveled, I think he traveled 1.2 million miles last year flying, and he runs every day he gets off the plane.
Wow.
So I can use excuses. Everybody can use excuses that they're busy and travel. But I think Dan he's a specimen of a man. He's a great guy to deal with. I met him when I was in Boston for the marathon and stuff like that. So just on the travel and all that, I would like to use excuses. I cannot use excuses when I hear that, because he said he generally does push-ups and sit-ups on the plane, and then when he gets to the hotel, he goes for a 10-mile run. So I cannot turn around and make excuses about my own travel.
Well, I'm so sad you said that, Dave, because now I feel really guilty. So
yeah,
that's impressive. Well, that is impressive as well as inspirational. So that's pretty cool. Thank you for giving him that shout out. So, Dave, we've covered a lot of territory. Is there anything that we've missed or that you'd like to add before we start to wrap up?
No, listen, Chris, I appreciate the time with you as well. And you obviously have done your research, very insightful questions, and it's great to talk to you. But overall, if anyone is interested, they can contact me. All the mails and contacts come directly through to me on the website. So I'll happily set up a call round that wants to talk through the event. And even if it's only an inquiry for future years, I'm always here.
That's great. Good. Yeah. And I will attest to that. You're very open and responsive, and that's not always the case with anything, let alone these kinds of events and whatnot. So we'll put these in the show notes, but to learn more, to register, to connect, I know you have a YouTube channel, you've got a podcast yourself. Are those some of the good ways, and as well as the website?
Yeah. And I'd say if anyone wants a bit of insight into the event as well, we're doing a couple of podcasts now with some of the people that did it last year as well. I'm kind of back recording a lot of travel the last couple months. So I'm back recording. So in the next couple of weeks, you will have people that will be releasing the podcast that have done the event. So they'll give you a bit of insight as well. And if anyone's interested as well, if they send me a mail, all the participants from last year, a lot of them are more than happy to have a conversation with them as well, so they can get a bit of advice on what it's like being down in the weeds during the event.
Good, awesome. Well, and if some of the listeners are like me, I typically consume my podcasts while I'm out on a run. So, we'll put all these things in the show notes. You don't need to, stop your pace right now. Just they'll all be there waiting for you in the LinkedIn companion piece as well. So, David, man, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. I've so enjoyed it, and I've so been looking forward to it, and just really impressed with what you've been able to accomplish. Thank you for making the time today.
My pleasure, Chris. I seriously appreciate your time.
As a reminder, listeners can read a summary of this episode and access links to the show notes via my LinkedIn Top Voice companion article, along with past guests as well. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and I hope it will help you in your journey to living your life in full. Until next time. Living a Life in Full is a production of Stout Media, a subsidiary of Gordian Knot, LLC. Assistant producer, Gracie Wong. Music, Dan O'Brien. Executive producer and host, Dr. Chris Stout. To learn more, stop by our website, A Life in Full, for show notes. And please recommend us to your friends and subscribe on your favorite platform. And as for the obligatory disclaimer, this podcast is for general information uses only and does not constitute the practice of psychology, medicine, nutrition, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical or psychological advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, I take conflicts of interest seriously. For all of my disclosures as well as show notes, please see livingalifeinfull.org/podcast and my LinkedIn profile. Thanks, and until next time.